Hi Pooja. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Suruchi.
This particular podcast is focused on, how does grit and resilience play a significant role when it comes to working women professionals, and how can that impact their career and success? So if, we could get started with, your thoughts on, at what points did you think, or what at a large level, grit and resilience you think plays a role in a woman's life, especially when it comes to work? We could get started with that.
Sure. Thanks, Suruchi, and thanks for having me. I guess grit is really the cornerstone of us, getting to the journey and really being at it for the period that we want. I guess if you just sort of talked about grit is something that at least I have leveraged throughout my career. So to give you a bit of a context and an example of how that's helped my personal journey is, I'm a finance postgraduate and HR happens to me by chance. And so my first career break was with Standard Chartered, and they offered me a job in taxation, and I was a taxation topper there during pursuing my finance. And I was like, all right, let's get started with taxation, no harm. And within a month they offered me a job in HR, and I'm like, seriously, like HR and me doesn't sort of connect too well, but I just went ahead. And then to realize that my peer group, the persona of a typical HR professional in Standard Chartered Bank those days were very different. They were all from tier one, from Fortune 500 companies, typically that their careers were, and surely experts in their domain. And here comes me, who understands really nothing about HR, just starting her professional journey. And I did certainly start at the same foundation as my peer group, but I could today say that just being at the journey, constantly reminding myself in terms of why I have started this journey, chosen this journey, and perseverance, passion has played a big role in that. It really wasn't easy. There were times when, people sort of like really questioning me and questioning, why this girl and why this forum and this meeting, and, very basics to where I think I've reached today. So I feel extremely proud. So yeah, very beneficial.
Great. On that note, good to know that, this context is in fact perfect, starting off somewhere and then making these switches. And for a lot of people, these kind of switches seem very, very significant. But if you look at a realm of, if you look at life stories of people, who've seen significant amount of life, you'll realize that there are quite a few times when these kind of switches happen. So when you were into this phase of making the switch happen, then possibly settling down with it, I'm sure as you grew, in your role, there were significant milestones that helped you probably get into some challenges, but that also kind of helped you work on this aspect of grit and resilience. Can you run us through, like a career path of yourselves where you thought that, oh, these were some of the most difficult points, but because, like they say, whatever doesn't kill you or break you makes you, and that built your grit and resilience. If you could just walk us through that.
I think I have had a very unconventional career journey. So, of course, the start was unconventional, and I'd maybe pick up a few assignments in my career, and why I took them, and how it sort of really turned eventually. So, the first, again, when of course, being part of the Standard Chartered Bank, huge global franchisee in HR, I mean, people who understand HR professional, they know typically, you start from talent acquisition, and then you progress into a generalist role or a comp and board role, etc. Usually people don't reverse it, so you don't start a business partner and then move to talent acquisition. It's typically seen as a step down in the career. But I remember at a stage when I had done about 5-7 years doing a business partnering role, and I really wanted to get an understanding of how things operate in different businesses across the footprint in India. At that point in time, business HR role, I wouldn't have gotten, to head the country because of the way we were organized and structured. But in parallel, there was a role of talent acquisition head that would have given me that sort of platform and visibility, learning on, I just took that role, and I remember everybody telling me within the bank and outside, look, what are you doing with your career? Like, you don't do talent acquisition after having such a great run as a business partner. Industry won't view this kindly. And I'm like, it doesn't really matter. It's about what I want to learn at this point in time.
Yeah.
And then I realized that role was one of the best decisions in my career, because it did not only expose me to the country franchisee, but also to the region and globe. So within joining the role, I was chosen at those days, right? It used to be a big banker thing, multinational bank. You chosen amongst the 1% high potential globally was a big thing. So I was called for an assignment, in London, in Singapore, all of those things. And that wouldn't have been possible had I not switched over to talent acquisition, because that gave me a different platform to showcase my sort of, my potential. Then of course there were a lot of these interesting moves. I remember when I'd done 14 years with the bank, that was another key juncture in my career that I think is very significant to helping me reach where I have today. Again, 14 years with the bank, you can do things very easy. You know the entire gamut of how things work, the stakeholder group. So consistently high potential, top performer. And then I said I need to really move industries because it's not helping me learn a great deal, right? We'll continue to do from a country to region to globe, but that would be it. It's just the scale increases, the complexity may not. It will be very incremental. And at that stage, I decided to join an ITS firm, WNS. There, the role was very interesting because I was getting to head HR for 50% of their businesses globally. And again, very similar reactions from my well-wishers. Like, what are you doing with your career? But I have always stayed at course, just reminding myself, all right, what is the big goal that I have in mind and how some of these movements is helping me reach there. So I can, of course, talk a lot about my stint in WNS and how I was like literally sort of, when I went in, I thought I was drowning.
Yeah.
How I kept afloat and survived and did well, I would want to believe.
What I'm picking beautifully here is if you have if you can visualize what you want to learn, it makes things very easy from a decision-making point of view. But at the same time, it gives you acceptance that if there are new things to be learned, there is obviously at some point you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to put yourself out of the comfort zone, which I think you highlighted about your switch to TA and then eventually your switch to an ITS organization, and taking something head on. And like you said, you tried to stay afloat, while things kept making you feel like you were drowning. I'm going to switch gears here because a lot of women, when it comes to grit and resilience to be demonstrated at work, do get pulled down because probably there is the other half of them thinking about their personal self, their personal life, their families, and things like that. How have you managed to, while they are all integrated with each other, like we know, right, work and life is integrated, are there any specific mantras that you had? Are there any specific examples that you remember where like most other women, it felt like, I'm breaking down, that resilience and grit so far that I felt like, was keeping me afloat is now going away. And then how did you continue to pull yourself out of that? Because most women fail or struggle rather, to make that happen while they're taking care or while they're also part of a family ecosystem back home.
Yeah, in fact, I'll continue with the same example. So, when I joined WNS, we had our operations in about 60 sites, if I remember right. And that means that in my head of HR role, I had to travel very regularly to be effective in my role and fundamentally understand how WNS, makes money. Only if an HR understands that, they can partner with the business, right? And I didn't have a clue about how they make money. So constantly, being out in front of clients, whenever I got an opportunity, travel extensively to know my people that I'm accountable for, took a huge toll in my personal life. I had no time, to really spend with my son, my husband, my friends, etc. And there was a point where I started questioning very regularly about my decision because there I had a very comfortable life back in Standard Chartered Bank, like stable, consistent, predictable, and here everything was opposite. So the one thing that really helped me, not drown, stay afloat is absolutely, I would want to acknowledge the support that I constantly got from my family. They were always behind me like a rock star. Of course, we wanted to spend more time as family, etc. But they were truly there. And number two, people who played huge role during that phase were my sponsors and my mentors. They really helped me sort of keep the sanity. If I needed a sounding board, they were always available. So some of those ecosystem that I had built around myself usually, came to sort of my rescue. And at the end of it, I'm a person that, if I have decided, I have decided, I will work through solutions. So I had to keep changing my lens very regularly. So I could look at a situation and say, oh gosh, this is not happening, or just change my lens and see how I could do this differently. So I remember when I would travel extensively to Pune, because, we had a huge insurance delivery center in Pune. I would make the most of my travel to stay in touch, with people that mattered to me in my life. So even if I was not meeting personally, some of those time I would carve out. Those time I would carve out to even read extensively in terms of how I was making money and things like that. I had an option to say, look, I wouldn't identify any time or costs, but I did some of those very, very elementary things to just keep sanity and still find time where there was none. It felt like there was none most times.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think they say it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a village to raise all of us, regardless of
Yeah.
what age we become, and the ecosystem plays a huge role in this village to make sure we are afloat. On that note, now a little bit in terms of switching gears here. You've spoken about your life story. Any other example that comes to your mind which you have watched closely, where time and again you've seen someone, showcase, grit and resilience, the whole aspect about, seeing through things, right? When they actually start looking to break down, and that have completely inspired you. And what were some of your learnings from an external story that you saw?
Yeah, I remember. So, when I was always inspired by women around me. Women, it could be even my peer group or a team member, or women in power positions. And, one thing was like constant was, their belief in themselves
Hmm.
and their ability to, really work through the ecosystem and say absolutely sure of why they were doing what they were doing, and they have the innate ability to look out for each other, in their tribe. And I think that tribe piece I have seen is truly helped each of them sort of succeed. Of course, grit, resilience, all of those, I think you don't have that, you potentially may not even have a seat, where you really want to get there. So I think they've become very, very elementary. So yeah, I think I would just say that this bit of tribe, just believing in themselves is truly
Yeah.
very, very inspiring. And so today when I'm in the position I am, I'm constantly thinking, how do you sort of enable many other like us in this journey of building each other? And that's how this zombie program, I'm personally a big fan, because it's nothing but a little tribe that we've created where we're supporting each other.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Thank you for that. And that's the reason this podcast also is so important, because I think there's a lot that you can learn from the tribe, apart from some of the things that you can take away from the program itself. And which is why I'm now going to switch gears. I want two parts to this, but the first being, you've been part of large organizations, and especially being part of a human function, human resource function, a people function. What do you think organizations can do to support women as they walk through their different career stories and hence life stages as well? And needless to say, my stance on this, we've always talked about how merit supersedes everything else. So this is not being about focusing one gender, but what do you think organizations at large can do to just support women, to be able to build at times when things start looking bleak? Your thoughts on that?
I think that organization should do a lot more is take risks.
Hmm.
Because traditionally, I believe, or culturally more than traditionally, that both men and women may not get the same platform due to the various cultural nuances, that the country has. And hence, I've seen whenever organizations have got the right formula of taking a balanced sort of risk, it has always paid off. And there are enough and more examples around us. So, one, absolutely keep taking risks. But sometimes when you sort of put a person in a role, do support them as well, because very often they're not we leave them and don't support them enough. Sorry, I'm wondering why this reaction I
No
was.
problem.
So they need to support, and by support I mean they need to really have anchor points that just allow them to sort of stay on track and at in their journey, and not let them fall. So the anchor points could be in the form of sponsors or mentors or coaches, whatever those are.
Yeah.
I know some of it Crystal does beautifully well, but the challenge to ourselves also is, can we do this a lot more and a lot more consistently? And that's the journey we are at right now. So I think if they just did these two things, take balanced risk and take a lot more of those and have anchor points that allow them to sort of succeed, that will just keep building their confidence. Success early on in the first 3 to 6 months is extremely important.
Correct.
Switching goals.
No, absolutely. I think success leads to success, and which is why now I'm going to switch. I spoke about the movement having 3 programs, each at, one at each level from junior, mid to senior. If you had to have from your career story or your life story till date, couple of leaves that you would want to pull out at each stage that you would want to give out as tips in order to build that grit and positive resilience that takes you through, especially at the junior level. We all personally believe that if a lot of foundational elements can be fixed, in early career years, hopefully these women will not run into the pitfalls that typically women at the mid-career levels face. So if you had to pull out 2 leaves, for the junior women Rise Like a Woman program, what would those 2 tips be? And again, at the mid-career levels, what would those 2 be? And if you think, you could also pull out something maybe that you've observed or that you think would work for senior women, what would your point of view or takeaway for them would be when it comes to building grit and resilience?
For junior women, my tip to them will be, don't sort of settle in with what you have, the role that you're doing. Keep exploring avenues that can give you learning opportunity. Very many times we often get confused with levels, with compensation and role. My simple advice across all levels is, if you focused on role, everything else will follow. So don't forget the very fundamental aspects of how things work in a corporate setup. So that is one to the women. And when we come to the mid, sometimes I do feel, because that's where the pyramid starts to sort of becoming a bit more obvious. So you got to put out yourself a bit more than you did in your early stages. By a bit more, it means that raise your hands to get into assignments that will give you a bit more exposure to either the organization or industry at large or concepts, whatever that is your calling. But you need to put out yourself a lot more. And then I have this philosophy that always use that, and it's really dear to me. The moment I have been appointed into a role, I am always thinking, what is my next role? So my efforts or my actions are always pointing to the next role, and maybe that's one of the reasons almost every 2 years I have had very consistent role. So that would be my advice.
No, absolutely. I think bang on, and thank you for being so candid about it. I don't think I completely take you on the fact that, especially at the younger stages, it's important not to settle down, because it starts getting comfortable and you start feeling you're becoming the master there, but not settling there. And especially at the mid level, I agree with you. I think for whatsoever reasons, based on how life happens to you during those years, it's important to put yourself out more. But very candidly, I love the fact that as soon as you step into your your new role, you're thinking, oh, what is going to be that next step? Because I think that becomes the guiding light of how you perform in the current role as well. It helps you kind of project, take on things, make decisions in a certain way, work out at a certain project at a certain level. So that definitely helps. Overall, just from last question on this one, but what do you think is required to be able to build an ecosystem that allows women to frankly think as liberally as you thought for your own careers? What do you think is missing? And of course, there is a lot of work that's happening, but if you had to pinpoint some areas that need more work that allows women to think liberally their career choices, what would that be?
That's an interesting question. I guess they have to just stop beating themselves with that need to be perfect at all points in time. So I guess, the moment they sort of stop being very harsh on themselves, they will see a lot more avenues in front of them. And by that, I mean that, thankfully, most corporates today, they recognize the fact that there is some bit of a bias in the organizations when it comes to building the right gender diversity. So there is this appetite that is building from an organization standpoint. And I think for women, they are in a great, sort of position to really leverage those opportunities. Yeah. And that can only happen once you sort of keep exploring, right? Don't get caught up with sometimes we do have a lot of constraints, and I'm not saying they're real or unreal, but just see how you could work through those constraints. Extremely critical, because you can never necessarily have an ideal situation where my office is just like a few minutes walking. I get flexibility, I get the ideal role, I get the ideal compensation. All those pieces will never fall in place. So it boils down to the choices that you make. And number two is, I personally feel it's the way you communicate with people that matter to you in your life. So I always, tell my husband, my friends, etc. I just state what's on my mind, because it just makes things extremely simple. And same thing with in my corporate world as well. So just state what's on your mind, because don't assume people are understanding your read. And women have this innate ability to assume that people know what they're thinking. They don't know. Trust me, they don't know. So just
Absolutely.
You will not complicate a lot of things for yourself.
No, lovely. Thank you for pinpointing. And I completely, I completely relate to this. I just published a blog, a vlog on I'm available. People are not going to know what's on your mind till you are able to, verbalize it, talk about it, and say it. In that vlog, at the end, I also mentioned this is not just true for work. Even at home, total expectations that everybody around me is going to understand what mood I am in, or what I want them to do, is never going to happen. But keeping this focused, I think completely agree. A lot of this gives clarity. If you know what you want, and if you're able to kind of say it out loud, makes decision making very simple. And also, you pointed very aptly, regardless of being a man or a woman, there is nothing called an ideal situation. There will always be some trade-offs that would need to be made. You have to decide which are the ones that you would like to be comfortable with and still see them through. But thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed having this interaction. The team is going to now package this and we'll soon be publishing it on the channel. We'll definitely keep you posted, and when the announcements, when it does go on social, we'll definitely tag you as well. But thank you, and we look forward to a continued association with CRISIL going forward as well.
Thank you, Suruchi. Thanks for having me. Have a lovely day.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.